Tune into Nice Radio every Saturday at 7:30 a.m. for A View from the Outside, hosted by Brereton Horne. A View from the Outside takes a look at key issues affecting St. Vincent and the Grenadines and gives a global perspective on how these issues are viewed. Host Brereton Horne will examine a variety of topics to enlighten, stimulate debate, and explore solutions. Hear the facts, hear the real-life stories, hear A View from the Outside. Join Brereton Horne at 7:30 a.m. every Saturday on Nice Radio for A View from the Outside.
On A View from the Outside this week being the 4th of August 2018, we look at conscious, CONSCIOUS, or being conscious, with the view being that as Vincentians, we ought to be more conscious about what to expect from government, especially after having been hoodwinked for many years. Becoming more conscious will help to ensure that no government will continue to succeed in hoodwinking us. The Cambridge Dictionary defines conscious as having knowledge of something and aware of and responding to one's surrounding. So, in line with those definitions, Vincentians are encouraged by us on A View from the Outside to become more knowledgeable and to respond to what is happening in the country. Today's view is inspired by a post on Facebook, a post which was made by the Speaker of the House of Assembly in the Parliament of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Jomo Sangat Thomas. This post is an excerpt from the book published in 1962 entitled Party Politics in the West Indies by C.L.R. James. And the excerpt reads, these are the words from C.L.R. James, "One of the greatest lessons which history teaches us is this: know it and never forget it. Any government that is not conscious of the power of the people is bound to be a bad government. That is to say, it will fool you, cheat you, and if need be, reduce you to hewers of wood and drawers of water. And without mercy, keep you in what is considered to be your place." Unquote. It must be borne in mind that it was in 1962 that C.L.R. James published those words, and that he was a West Indian who was born and grew up in Tunapuna in Trinidad and Tobago. It must also be borne in mind that he was described as a tireless social and political activist who was always conscious and very aware of the political environment. Having read those words from C.L.R. James, one cannot help but compare the behavior and actions of the regime in St. Vincent and the Grenadines to see whether they have done and are doing what C.L.R. James warned, that a government which is not conscious of the power of the people will do. And if indeed the regime is doing those things, then, according to C.L.R. James, they are a bad government. C.L.R. James says, if they fool you, they are a bad government. Well, the regime did tell Vincentians that they will be tough on crime and the causes of crime. And they did say that with the promise that they will reduce crime. Everyone knows that rather than reducing crime in the country, the crime rate is skyrocketing out of control. The homicide or murder rate is hitting a record year on year. Rape and sexual abuse are rampant, and so too are other violent offenses. So it seems, on the evidence, that they have fooled Vincentians about being tough on crime and the causes of crime. And according to CLR James, that makes them a bad government. They promised teachers a single 30% increase in salary when they got into government. Well, they got into government over 17 years ago now. And to date, teachers have not had anything near that increase accumulatively. They also signed a collective agreement with teachers and included a clause to allow teachers to contest electoral politics and to be reinstated to their teaching position if they lost the election. Well, the nation knows about the case of Kennery Johnson, a principal, Addison Bash Thomas, an acting head teacher, and Elvis Daniel, the country's leading mathematician, who all contested general elections for the New Democratic Party, the NDP, in 2010 and lost. It is now almost 8 years since then, and none of those teachers have been reinstated. Well, after the regime, signed that agreement, they turned around now and said that the clause is unconstitutional and that it is aspirational. The court will soon decide whether or not that is the case. Be that as it may, on the evidence, it seems as if the teachers have been fooled by the regime. The teachers and the union have been fooled by the regime. And that being the case, according to CLR James, that makes the regime a bad government. They have made promises, many promises, to you, to us, the Vincentian people, that they have not kept. And those promises include a cross-country road, building a cross-country road, building a national stadium, constructing a tunnel under Cane Garden, building a city at Arnesville, and many, many more promises, which you know of, including many promises made to individuals as well. In essence, based on those failed promises, they have fooled you. They have fooled us. And as such, according to CLR James, they are a bad government. Be conscious, fellow Vincentians, because CLR James also said that a bad government will cheat you. Well, many believe that the current regime has cheated us, Vincentians, and continue to cheat us, of a government which would have been moving the country forward by now. Many believe that they cheated and stole the last general elections in the country. And it is because of that belief why there are election petitions against them in the courts. The nation, the region, and the world wait patiently with bated breath for those petitions to be heard in the court and to hear whether the court will rule that they did indeed cheat in those elections. It is a known fact that the regime cheated the workers of the country. They deducted national insurance contributions from wages and salaries and failed to pay those deductions over to the National Insurance Service, as they are required to do by law. It was only when they were shamefully exposed by the opposition that they borrowed money from the National Insurance Service to pay the National Insurance Service. They borrowed money from the NIS to pay the NIS those deductions, your money. They also continue to cheat the nation of accountability, the accountability which the Constitution, the highest law of the land says that they must provide to you, to us, the people of the country. And so, because they cheat us, because they cheat the Vincentian people, then, in keeping with C.L.R. James, they are a bad government. C.L.R. James also said that a bad government will reduce you to hewers of wood and drawers of water. In that vein, it must be asked, is the regime trying to turn the farmers of St. Vincent and the Grenadines into hewers of wood and drawers of water when they, as many believe, deliberately neglected and all but killed the banana industry? Is that what they're trying to do to the farmers of the country when the agricultural industry is left in ruins and many acres of farmlands are no longer under cultivation? Were they trying to turn Bigger Biggs into a hewer of wood and a drawer of water when they concocted reasons to destroy his multi-million-dollar industry and left the ruins on display to act as a reminder and to act as an intimidation to others? And is that the reason why, to date, they have not provided restitution for Bigger Biggs? Is that what they want to reduce Marcus the Freitas to? A hewer of wood and a drawer of water? When they have for many years now compulsorily acquired his property and have not paid him a penny, despite a court order for them to compensate him? Is the regime trying to turn the majority of the nation into hewers of wood and drawers of water? Why the unemployment rate in the country stands at a record number? And is that why youth unemployment is nearing 50%? Well, if, as many believe, that is what they're trying to do, then according to C.L.R. James, that makes them a bad government. And the other thing that C.L.R. James said makes a bad government is when they, without mercy, keep you in what is considered to be your place. They did that to Michelle Andrews when, after her allegations of rape and sexual assault against the Prime Minister, they placed her on the beat, excuse me, where she was constantly ridiculed by supporters of their regime. They did that to Kate when she dared recounted her own personal experiences of rape and sexual abuse. They ridiculed her on their daily radio programs. Otto Sam was unlawfully transferred and dismissed, all because he no longer supported them. One lady was described in Parliament by the Prime Minister as indigent and poor, all because she exercised her constitutional right to join the front line to protest what is described as a stolen election. Many people question whether the treatment of Yogi Farrell was an attempt to put her in her place, was putting her in the mental hospital an attempt to put her in her place after she discussed an alleged relationship with Camilo Gonzalez? Well, for all those examples, according to C.L.R. James, that makes them a bad government. Of course, there are many more examples in each of the categories stated by C.L.R. James. However, time does not permit us to mention more. We, on A View from the Outside, however, we encourage all Vincentians to spot the examples that make them a bad government and cite those examples, say them, and take every opportunity to remind the regime of how bad a government they are. Let them know how conscious you are on the issues, and let them know that CLR James has made you even more conscious of the power you as the people hold. If need be, say the exact words of CLR James to them. Say the words. These words are, any government that is not conscious of the power of the people is a bad government. Until next week, Justin and all of the listeners, this is Brereton Horne with a view from the outside, with a reminder to send feedback as usual to aviewfromtheoutside@hotmail.com. That's aviewfromtheoutside@hotmail.com.
Yes.
Have a pleasant Saturday, have a wonderful Sunday, and have a productive and conscious week ahead. All the best to you and the listeners. Yes.